He goes by many names. The King in Yellow, the Unspeakable One, Lord of Carcosa. He stains every mind that sees the sign. He bends stories into sickness. He reveals the truth behind the mask, then makes you wear it. This is Pantheon mythology, and this is why you must fear Hastur. If you too stain every mind, check out Pantheon Apparel, our clothing brand inspired by myths, folklore and legends. We ship worldwide and are rated excellent on Trustpilot. Link in the description. Before he was feared, Hastur was worshipped. In 1893, American writer Ambrose Bierce published a short story titled Haita the Shepherd. It's a quiet, almost dreamlike tale about a young herdsman who lives in an idealized countryside. His world is pure, untouched by suffering, and his days are spent tending animals and offering devotion to a god named Hastur. This version of Hastur is a serene, divine figure, never seen, never described, but always present in the boy's thoughts. He represents patience, goodness, and the promise that joy will come to those who wait for it. In Bierce's story, Hastur is less a character and more a concept, a comforting presence tied to innocence and hope. There's no horror here, no creeping dread, no yellow sign. Just a boy, a hill, and a God who listens. And then something changed. The name lived on, but the meaning did not. Within just 2 years, another author would take that same name and twist it into something entirely different. The shift from God to infection happened violently and almost without explanation. And that's what makes Hastur so unsettling. His origin was peaceful. His corruption was immediate. In the stories of Robert W. Chambers, a new kind of horror spreads, one that travels through fiction itself. His 1895 collection, The King in Yellow, includes a handful of tales connected by a mysterious play of the same name. The play exists within the world of the stories, spoken about in hushed tones, read in secret, feared for its effect on those who encounter it. Only brief excerpts appear in text, but even those fragments suggest something vast and unsettling. The first act captures the reader's imagination. The second act changes them. Afterward, nothing feels stable. The world seems altered. Emotions shift. Identities fray. It distorts. It reveals something the reader wasn't meant to hold. Around the play swirl a series of recurring elements. Carcosa, a forgotten city shrouded in mist. Lake Hali, endless and still. The yellow sign, a symbol that surfaces in paintings on clothing and in dreams. Each element adds to a growing sense of contamination, as if the story itself carries something beneath its words. At the center of this spiral is the name Hastur. He does not enter the scene, he does not speak, but his presence presses against the edges of the narrative. He lives in the margins, mentioned without explanation, always close to the madness. Chambers never outlines who or what Hastur is. The power lies in the suggestion, in the way the name threads through fiction, through mind, through time. In this world, Hastur is not a visitor. He is already here, woven into the story, waiting behind the curtain, performing through others. By this point, the name Hastur has passed from creator to creator, shedding its original form and taking on a life of its own. But the question remains, what is Hastur? He is not defined by a single form. Instead, he moves through structures, stories, settings, performances, symbols, each one designed to erode the mind from the inside out. His fear comes not from death or destruction, but from transformation. Once his influence takes hold, the self begins to unravel. As the King in Yellow, he appears during the second act of his play. His presence creates a shift. The audience begins to lose the boundary between role and identity. They speak lines they don't remember learning. They respond to cues they haven't been given. Friends become strangers. Familiarity becomes performance. Eventually, the difference between who they are and who they've become fades completely. They don't know how they've changed. They feel as though they were always this way. They wake up speaking a line from the play they thought they'd forgotten. A familiar face feels miscast. A name sounds like someone else's. And when they speak, it's with certainty about things they never believed until now. As the play, Hastur spreads through language. The lines guide thought. The structure reshapes belief. Readers begin to speak in rhythms from the text. Their dreams follow the play's pacing. Their speech takes on its phrasing. The story reshapes memory. Eventually, the reader no longer remembers when they started the play, only that they can't stop living inside it. They replay the same sentence all day, without knowing why. They whisper it while making tea, hear it in the silence between songs, and it doesn't stop until they say it out loud to someone else, who already knows the next line. As Carcosa, he becomes the world. The city loops through mist and silence. Its architecture holds no fixed logic, but the mind begins to accept it. The streets lead back to themselves. The skyline repeats across every horizon. Time folds inwards. Those who walk through Carcosa stop asking where they are. They remember being there before, even when they haven't. The city becomes their only map. Every thought anchors to its broken stones. As the yellow sign, he uses recognition as entry. The symbol appears once, then again and again. The person who sees it begins to share images and phrases with others who've seen it too. Their dreams converge, their thoughts repeat, their identities align. They do not feel possessed. They feel understood by something that never needed permission to enter. Hastur changes perception, memory, personality. His victims continue living their lives, speaking their names, fulfilling their routines, but every layer of their reality is now scripted. They feel autonomous. They feel free, but every thought has already been written. And that is why he must be feared. It starts behind the eyes, a pressure, not painful but dense, like a thought that hasn't finished forming but refuses to leave. They smell salt water where there is none. They forget why they entered the room. They hum a tune they can't place, and someone else hums it back. He never takes anything away. He adds, he builds, he adjusts, and when he's finished, you look into the mirror and you smile, and you feel whole, without ever noticing what you've become. Hastur's presence expanded in the 20th century as his name was absorbed into the growing network of cosmic horror known today as the Cthulhu mythos. At the center of that mythos stood H.P. Lovecraft, a writer obsessed with ancient knowledge, incomprehensible gods, and the insignificance of human life within a vast, uncaring universe. Lovecraft did not invent Hastur. He borrowed the name from Chambers, just as Chambers had borrowed it from Bierce. In Lovecraft's stories, the name appears only in passing, tucked into arcane lists, mumbled in occult references, half buried in forbidden texts. He never describes Hastur's form. He never shows his actions, and that silence gives the name power. In a mythos filled with monstrous gods and alien dimensions, Hastur remains the most unsettling precisely because he isn't revealed. Later, Lovecraft's follower and literary executor August Derleth took the name further. Derleth sought to organize the mythos into a structured pantheon, giving each entity a role, an alignment, a place in the cosmic hierarchy. Under Derleth's hand, Hastur became a great Old One, an ancient aeroline being associated with decay, madness, and the distant Hyades star cluster. He placed Hastur near Lake Hali, gave him rivalries, cults, and a defined role as an enemy of Cthulhu. But the moment Hastur was framed, like others, anchored to the coordinates, given elemental powers, forced into order, something was lost. The fear that Chambers had woven into absence did not survive rigid classification. And yet Hastur remained. The name endured, and it continued to spread, long after the rules tried to contain it. This is what separates Hastur from the rest. Other gods in the mythos dominate through scale, through appearance, through force. Hastur dominates through presence. He survives contradiction. He thrives in reinterpretation. He never needs to appear. His strength grows through being mentioned, through being misunderstood, through being allowed to linger. In Lovecraft's universe, most horrors come from the stars, but Hastur is different. He comes through ideas, through art, through language. Through the moment a reader pauses and wonders if they've seen the yellow sign before. Hastur spreads because stories spread. His name moves from author to author, scene to scene, until the story itself becomes the method of transmission. By the time he appears in modern media, he doesn't need a full introduction. He's already part of the structure. He's already influencing the frame. The King in Yellow shows up in True Detective not as a character, but as an idea stitched into the background. The yellow sign appears in drawings. Carcosa is spoken of like a place half remembered. Characters lose themselves chasing meaning they can't quite name. The narrative bends in ways that suggest something older, already at work beneath the surface. In games like Bloodborne, the influence continues. While Hastur is never directly named, the signs are there. Themes of madness, transformation, and truth hidden in plain sight run through the world. The environment feels unstable in just the right places. At the edges of Canehurst Castle, Martyr Logarius waits alone atop a ruined tower, his posture regal, his crown broken, his purpose unclear. He carries the weight of something buried, duty, secrecy, perhaps a curse that never needed to be spoken aloud. Whether intentional or not, he feels like a nod to the King in Yellow. Hastur is now used as a kind of narrative virus. He moves through language, through suggestion, through half-seen patterns. The reader, the viewer, the player doesn't just take in the story, they start to reflect it. Scenes loop in their mind. Dialogue feels familiar. They notice repetition that no one pointed out. The structure becomes the message. The story becomes part of their thought. The King in Yellow appears through rhythm, through placement, through the sense that this isn't the first time you've heard his name. He moves without form, without warning, and once he's inside the narrative, he stays there. You're already part of it. You said the name, the King in Yellow. You followed the story. You looked. And that's all it takes. You must fear Hastur because he rewrites reality, quietly, precisely, completely. He gives you a new truth, a new memory, a new identity, and makes you believe it was always yours without a single moment of doubt. You'll go back to your day, you'll speak as you always do. You'll sleep without noticing when the dream began. But something is different now. A rhythm, a phrase, a memory you don't remember making. and by the time you notice, he's already written the next line.